Welcome to What a Week, the podcast where we talk about the things that you should have heard about over the last 7 days. And certainly with the things that we have today, I would suspect you've not seen these on the mainstream media. I am James Messer. Joining me today as my co-host, as always, is Mrs. Judy Messer. Hello, dear.
Hello.
So nice to have you here.
It's nice to be here.
It's nice to have this whole thing put together. We're back sort of to where we are from 2 weeks ago. Last week, I tried an experiment of different lighting and different cameras and different audio. It's a disaster. Just a miserable, horrible disaster. So we won't be doing that again.
Good.
Live and learn. So we're back to where we were a couple of weeks ago, which I think I'm happy with so far. It's one of those things that it's never over. You're never finished building the studio. It's like an airport. It's like a hospital. There's constant construction. There's constant things going on. It's never done.
With this many buttons, you just have to push them. That's the thing.
And I'm happy to do
There's
so.
There's always buttons to push.
Very happy to do so. We stream this live every Saturday at 11:30 in the morning Eastern Time. So if you'd like to join us live, you could certainly do that on whataweekpodcast.com/live and watch everything that's going on there. And what we've done is put together a number of stories for you this week that we've seen in the news that I find interesting. I certainly isn't news that you've heard about if you're watching the Today Show or CNN or anything on the late night newscasts. You're not going to see any of these stories, or if you do, it would be a rare occasion. There's things that interest me, and hopefully they'll interest you and you as well.
Always.
Oh, that's good.
I learned things.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Like?
Well, remember I told you that we did a story a couple weeks ago about things that are orbiting the Earth, like little moons, so to speak.
Right.
Asteroids and what have you.
That's right.
There was a story on Yahoo this week about that.
About the asteroids?
About second moons, like having enormously large asteroids, like car-sized asteroids that orbit the Earth for about a year or so, and then they take off and go somewhere else. And I was like, we did that story.
Yes. Took them long enough to get away.
Before you.
It's about time. we scooped them. Let's start our story with our grouping of stories this week with what a traffic light. This is an interesting one.
I'm wondering what this is, but go ahead.
But this is probably a rather polarizing topic in our home. So we're going to talk about this once we get to it. This leads into another story. So this isn't the polarizing part quite yet. But I was looking around. There was a story on energy.gov. So this is a United States government website for the Department of Energy that talked about, if I get rid of the picture of us, turning right on a red light.
Okay.
Now, it sounds pretty innocuous. Turning right on a red light, something that I've been doing ever since I've been driving. And I'm always, and we've mentioned this before when we've been driving about some places you can turn right on red, some places you can't. Well, interestingly enough, I thought this had just been around forever. The turning right on a red light. Turns out it's only been around since the 1970s. And they did it when there were so many fuel problems, gasoline problems for those young kids out there. We had these very horrible gasoline shortages in the 1970s, and you had to line up on the street to get gasoline.
Yes.
Something we don't even think about these days. We haven't seen a shortage like that since the 1970s.
I remember it because my parents bought a Volkswagen Rabbit.
Right. Everybody got the small car.
Got 800 miles to the gallon.
We've seen instances, I guess, since then. There have been times, perhaps.
I paid $4.15 the other day.
$4.15 a gallon for those of you outside the United States.
That's for high test. Unfortunately, my prissy car has to have.
Yeah, you got the big truck. It has to have the fancy schmancy
stuff. But that's a lot.
It is a lot. And I remember early on the Bush, in George Bush, the last 12 years ago or so, it was 99 cents a gallon.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Sure.
Those were heady days, my friend.
Oh, good times.
Those are long gone.
Good times.
It's like, kids, how bad do you really need to go to practice? Do you really need to go?
So what they did in the energy.gov is talk about this turning right on a red light. It's something that, interestingly enough, the West Coast states had already done. It was the East Coast that had not done this before. So during the 1970s, the oil crisis that happened, that's when we started turning right on a red light.
Because you would use up fuel sitting there in a red light?
Of course, the federal government, being so good at doing these things, did a study and they called it, of course, the Right Turn on Red System, or the RTOR.
They actually did a study on this.
They did a study on this to see how much would it really save. So they found that you save, when you're stopped at a red light, between 1 and 4.6 seconds of driver's time by having the ability to turn right on a red light. And they found, in fact, they mentioned on this, there was an episode of Mythbusters on the Discovery Channel where they looked at this. Is this really something that improves efficiency? And they found that it improved the fuel efficiency exponentially.
You're kidding.
For right turn on red, especially for delivery trucks, because they're always out delivering things. So your UPS, your Federal Express.
So you start adding up all that time and energy. Okay,
yep.
I can see that.
It's interesting because we've talked about this before, and this is something that's been out for a while, is UPS has a system where their computer automatically figures out, based on what packages are in your truck, the most optimal route to deliver those packages where there will be the fewest number of left turns.
Because they're more dangerous? Because
they take so much more time to sit there
and wait.
Because you can't turn left on a light. You have to wait for the green light to turn left here in the United States. And that causes you to just idle and waste fuel. Now imagine every single UPS truck in the universe waiting and idling rather than turning right. Look at how much fuel you would save.
That's really interesting. You know, in my truck, I have it's like a real time, what your mileage is.
Sure.
It is amazing when you accelerate, it just sucks gas. Like you can literally see it just dropping. So now I just go really.
I was going to ask, how quickly are you accelerating?
That was just for the study.
I see.
For the purposes of research.
So for science.
Yes, that's right. But especially if you accelerate and you're going up a hill, you're getting like 2 miles a gallon.
That's right.
It's terrible.
That's right.
It's terrible.
It's awful. And so that's why I found that study, because I've never thought about it before, but
I haven't either. And I just thought it had always been around.
Yeah, not so much.
I figure it's one less way to get a ticket.
Oh, there you go.
Especially from the evil photo enforced lights.
The photo enforced
which I've somehow managed to avoid a ticket.
Right.
I feel like it's just gotten me a few times and I must have missed it, by a whisker.
Well, that's one of our pet peeves, but I thought this next story would focus on the other one of our pet peeves on the highway. And this story might leave you a little bit, I don't know, you might be torn over this one.
Okay.
This story, what a right-of-way. This is a story of a bicyclist on a road.
Okay.
And what I'd like to do is show you, for the bicyclist on a road, just what happened to the bicyclist that was on this road. This is a story that came from Metafilter. The links will be in the notes. This is, I don't think there is any audio, but I will turn this up so we can hear the audio, and I'll get this going. Let me flip back the screen so we can all see what's going on. So here's what happened, is that here's a bicyclist on a bridge. You can see there's a big truck behind him. He's going to have to go around him. He's in the middle of the road.
That is so scary.
He's on this bridge. This is in Pennsylvania. These trucks and cars are going around him. There they go. And
I almost cannot look at this.
Now here's a bus. Here's a white car and a dark car behind it. Now, when this changes, you'll notice the black car just hit the guy who's on the bicycle, and then boom, accelerates and off he goes.
And left.
Look what the bus does though.
I love that bus.
Bus blocked.
You go, bus driver.
And the guy who was on the bicycle at this point says, "I'm okay."
Oh, okay. So I see him getting up.
I'm okay.
Thank goodness he's
Speed up there and get his license tag, is what he said. So they ended up blocking him in.
I cannot believe.
Right there.
He tried to do that.
Somebody just, it was, I think, a young driver who wasn't paying attention or whatever. Hit
Texting.
The guy. Texting, probably. And hit the guy. And so that's what happened, was that.
Oh, my gosh.
And it was that driver up there, the guy in the city bus, who blocked the lane and did not allow the guy to go through. Now, as it turns out, the biker, they did a story on the local news and all that kind of thing, but the biker was, that was not a good situation.
His bike.
Yeah,
oh,
I mean, he got nailed. And there is a sign there on the bridge.
That they're allowed.
You are allowed to use the full lane. This is it's a bridge. You don't have anywhere to go. So you can use your bike on the bridge.
I don't want to give anybody the wrong impression here. I love cycling. I think it's a great sport. There's a lot of people here in our town that do it. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah.
But I just get so scared as a driver when I'm on this little 2-lane road like we have near our house.
I was going to say, because this is not unusual to what's right next to our house.
There's woods on either side, so you can't really go around.
There's not a bike
lane. There's always
lane.
Traffic.
There's not a sidewalk. It's ditches on either side of a 2-lane road.
And they're which they have the right to be. They have the right to be there on the road. But I am just so scared when I'm behind them. I'm so afraid that they're going to hit a rock or they're going to fall.
Sure.
So you're way, way back there. I'm just really, really scared I don't want to hit anybody. There's not enough therapy in the world that could help me if that happened. It would be awful. And I have seen them going down that road with like big 18-wheelers behind them. It's scary. I think you always have to be respectful. I try to be really careful and always look for them, but I'm just scared. I don't ever, ever, ever want to hit anybody.
There were a lot of comments on this particular story, both on Metafilter and on Reddit. I think there was a link there as well. And a lot of people chiming in and saying he shouldn't have been in the middle of the road, and very adamant about this. And this is sort of the dividing line between people who have cars and people who bicycle, is that those darn bicyclists are taking up the road and I got to go around them and they're so slow.
Is that how they talk?
Just like that. Legally, they can absolutely be there. And as the sign showed,
even said, he has a right.
He has a right to be right in the middle of the road, especially in Pennsylvania, where there are a lot of horse-drawn carriages. There are a lot of bicycles.
Right.
A lot of people who don't use cars. So it's an especially important thing there. But they are absolutely legally allowed to be exactly where he was. That gentleman in that particular case was not in the way. The other side of the coin, of course, is, why are you riding your bicycle on a busy bridge?
It's just dangerous. And that's what I often think, because I feel the same way. They have a right. And again, it's healthy. It's good for you. It's a great sport. Do it.
Until you get run over.
But 5 o'clock traffic.
Right.
When people are not at their best, they're grouchy. They're trying to get home.
Why are they grouchy?
And you are on... in my story, they are, okay?
Right.
And you're on your little bike, and... you're just not going to cause a lot of goodwill to be manufactured in your direction if you do that.
We have seen people have very little goodwill riding next to the bicyclists.
Yeah.
On our little tiny road.
Right.
Yeah. Not a good situation.
But that guy, hitting a person. He hit a person.
Stop. See if he's okay.
I cannot even believe that he took off like that. Didn't even stop. Didn't even look. I'm really glad he got stopped. I just want to cheer that bus driver.
Got busted.
Can you imagine on the bus? They're like, whoa, what's he doing? And the bus driver's doing a Clint Eastwood there. That's awesome.
Is that what that was?
That was a Clint Eastwood. He was a mad bus driver.
We're going to go from Clint Eastwood to maybe Samuel Jackson. So our next story, what an upgrade. And if I'm talking upgrades, I'm talking about flying, because I love to fly. Flying now these days, it used to be flying was awful, but these days it's so nice and romantic. And there's
where are you flying?
There's birds and there's fluttering around, and in the cabin there's butterflies fly along.
Awesome.
They rest on people. There's harp music.
The scent of lavender piped through the air.
Awful to travel these days. It's awful.
It is. It's turning into a more and more negative experience.
So one of the things that happened recently in the battle of all of the things that go on with airlines is that Midwest Airlines was purchased by Frontier. Those really don't get out here to the East Coast where we are, but they're pretty big on the West Coast. And one of the things that Midwest always did was they would make warm cookies, chocolate chip cookies on the plane.
How have I never flown this airline?
This is not only something that's kind of nice to have, but you can imagine flying and the smell of chocolate chip cookies. Somebody clearly...
You can't be mad when you smell chocolate chip cookies.
That has to be one of a more brilliant marketing techniques that one has ever seen.
Somebody's mom came up with that idea.
And it's brilliant.
Right.
And you can tell that's one of those things that endears you to a brand when somebody does something like that.
They really went out of their way Give that little extra special something.
How much is cookies for a plane? You just take it right off the top. Everybody gets cookies, and you make the experience nicer so that people come back.
Sure.
So, of course, let's get rid of that.
Who got rid of cookies?
Well, Frontier got rid of cookies. The Frontier Airlines is the one that has bought Midwest. So they've said, you know what? No more cookies. But we're going to do one better. We're getting rid of the cookies. But what we're going to do is offer you the little Pepperidge Farm goldfish crackers, or you can have animal crackers.
That's not even the same.
For
$1. For $1?
So it's about the same thing as having cookies.
Come on.
So that was one of those things, though. So right after
that's a bad idea.
When the inventory goes away about May, that will be the end of the chocolate chip cookies on the Frontier Airlines. So forget all of that nonsense about making you like us. Or forget. In fact, that's really what flying today has come to. We really don't care what you think of us.
We know that you have to fly.
We are the only airline going from point A to point B.
They've got you.
And if there are multiple airlines going from point A to point B, we're fighting the fares are about the same, and we're both just as miserable as you. People say, I love Southwest. No, Southwest sucks. They're bad too. No reserve seating. You're facing the wrong way. I think they got rid of those by now. But
every man for himself. It's
a miserable experience, just as anything else is a miserable experience. Everybody tries to make it nice. And even on Delta, you'll get some snappy flight attendant who's trying to tell jokes during the safety talk, which is at this point.
God bless those people. Yes.
It's played out. Don't do that. And so nobody likes it. So, of course, let's get rid of anything that might bring some type of humanity back into aviation, like the nice warm chocolate chip cookies, because it doesn't matter. Ultimately, the people flying don't care.
It's cutting into profits. Really?
Really?
Can't you go find a source of cookies that's a little cheaper or something? I mean,
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There's airlines that are investigating, can we make you stand up during the flight? Can we get these special seats that you're standing in?
That is not true.
That is an absolute truth. They are investigating that to see if they can. Ryanair wants to do that. Ryanair was the one that wanted to charge for the bathroom on the plane.
What?
Yeah. I'm not making this up. There are airlines seriously considering that. So why not? You will pay for that, and people will not. People pay for that.
The trains are missing it. They're missing it.
What do you mean the trains are missing it?
If they could make the train experience nice, I think more people would do it.
By default, the train experience is nice. If you go to the UK, if you go to London,
well, we don't live there. Yes, our experience overseas when we went through the Channel was incredible.
Oh, yes.
I'd do that all day long.
The whole train infrastructure in Europe is phenomenal. Now, in the United States, we're so spread out. Sort of in the northeast part of the United States, there's a little bit better train infrastructure. But in the southeast, not at all. Zero. There's Amtrak that goes one place to another.
I took Amtrak. Granted, it was a little while ago.
Did they have warm cookies?
And we went to D.C. No warm cookies. There was no warm cookies. There wasn't a nice lady like when we went on the Channel with a cart.
There was a nice lady with a cart.
Remember the little omelet?
Yes.
In her little pan?
Whole Harry Potter thing going on there.
They're lucky. See, if we had that, people would be like, poo on the airline. We would just take the train.
So yet another
where we can sit down.
The de-evolution of plane travel continues with yet another nice branding moment gone by the wayside. I think for all of my videos that I do on Professor Messer, I'm going to include chocolate chip cookies with them.
If you could somehow pipe that smell, you'd be a millionaire.
That'd be awesome.
Well, they say, like, if you're trying to sell your house, that's what you should do. Bake some cookies.
Sure.
Right before people come over.
Yep.
That and clean the bathroom.
That would be a good idea.
Helpful.
Put away the dishes.
Put things tidy a little.
Clean something up, will you? Right. Our next story, what a conversion. What a conversion. We're not getting into...
This sounds scientific.
It's somewhat geeky. I wouldn't say scientific. Here's a gentleman. I love people who have creative answers to unique problems. And this gentleman certainly did. He needs
to go work for the airline.
They'll just tell him no cookies. He had a ton, and I mean a lot, hundreds of disks that he'd use in his Amiga computer. Now, an Amiga hasn't been around for a long time, but he obviously had data on there that was very important to him, and they were all on floppy disks. Now, if you look around these computers in this room, there's no floppy disk drives on any of these computers.
Those were the good old days.
It's a technology that has gone by the wayside. So one of the things he did was say, well, I've got these hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of floppy disks. What am I going to be able to do with this? I don't want to have to sit there all day, every day. This would take me forever to be able to do this. So one of the things that he did was to try to create maybe a Lego version of an automated system that would pull these things in and out. But there were a few problems with this. There were fixed dimensions. He's trying to use the Mindstorms robot with it. That didn't work either. Just too much of a problem.
This totally looks like a project that could happen in our house, by the way.
It absolutely, which is why I'm bringing this up. So he said, well, they have these that do this type of thing, except they're duplicators, but they're a system that kerchunk, it puts the floppy disk in the top, and it kerchunks it in there, and it writes to the floppy disk, and it throws it out the other side. Okay. He wanted to do the reverse of this. He wanted to put the data disks in and have it read each one and copy the information to a hard drive and chunk out the old one.
Okay.
And it would be nice if it could take a picture of the one that it just read and match it up to the content he just pulled out of there so they could visually see the label that was on the floppy disk. Otherwise, he'd be spending forever typing everything in. So he took that idea and he came up with this contraption that did exactly that. It went through and it loaded. You can see it reading the floppy disk right here. And after it reads it,
this is quite the music, by the way.
I know. Well, it then throws out. There it is. Throws it down there. It takes a picture. And hear the camera beeping. And then once it's done taking the picture and everything's cool, and it's got the image, it's waited the proper amount of time, throws it out.
Look at that. And then
goes to the next one.
Well, that's cool.
That's pretty neat.
I don't know why the music is so sad.
It's kind of sad music. It's the end of the Amiga floppy disk.
Oh, is that why?
I guess we're mourning. I don't know. Maybe it's live. Maybe he's playing this as we're. Okay, it's not, but could be. And there's another one. There it goes. So I just found that I found that remarkable.
And he put this on a video, and you found it.
No. Now stop that. That's not.
I think
nice.
that's awesome.
Thank you. Let's skip over from the floppy disks, and go to something that, of course, is at the heart of what we do every day. Of course. What is Seiche?
Is that how you say that?
Yes.
I was gonna say Seiche.
I had to. I had to look it up.
You looked it up.
I did.
You sneaky peeked. That's how you knew.
What is Seiche? Now, a Seiche, it's a French term. It is something that describes when you're in a pool of water, describes standing waves in that pool of water. So you're in a lake.
Okay.
You're in a small pond, and there's waves in the pond. A Seiche describes that event of there being waves in the pond. Okay?
Okay.
With me so far?
Do you say things like, the water's very Seiche today?
I don't know about that.
Use it in a sentence.
Well, I will in a moment, because let me lead up to this. So where this came from is something called Devil's Hole. Now, Devil's Hole is in Death Valley in Nevada.
Mm.
And Devil's Hole is literally just this tiny hole. Let me pop this open so you can really see it. It is this hole that's in the middle of the desert, and it has water in it. All down here is water, that dark part at the bottom. You'll see this in a moment. And it goes into this cavern that's like 300 feet deep, and it goes down further. So this is just in the middle of this, the most deserty part of desert you can find in the United States, Death Valley. There's water right there. What's even more interesting is there is a very specific kind of fish that lives in this, a unique
Get out of
type,
here.
I'm telling you, a unique type of fish there. And there's and what they do a lot of studies of these types of fish. In fact, I think I have that fish name. I want to get it because that was a pretty interesting. Let's see if I can reload that page. that describes the type of fish. A pup fish is what they do. And they have scientists that study this pup fish in this devil's hole to be able to understand how it got there, to monitor what happens with the fishes, to watch when they breed, all of those types of things.
It says it lives in hot water.
And that is very hot water that's coming out of that. So what's interesting about this devil's hole is not really the fact that it's there, although in itself it's a pretty interesting thing. It's what happened earlier last month in Devil's Hole. So this is obviously just a bit of coming out of the bottom of this is simply a water, and it's just sitting there with the little puffish swimming around and doing what they do. So what happened, this is in Mexico on March the 20th, there was a big, like a 7-point something.
That's a big earthquake.
Earthquake in Mexico. I mean, it was a big deal. So one of the things that they found, they were at this particular Devil's Hole.
Look at that.
When the earthquake happened in Mexico.
I got it hold.
They happened to have cameras there. The scientist was actually being interviewed.
The water is moving.
Oh, yes.
I know. I'm recording it too.
They had 2 cameras there recording.
Look at this.
Because they were interviewing for the type of things they were doing there.
That would freak me out.
You're sitting there and you're not feeling anything.
Out of there.
But the water started moving.
The nature of these...
So they didn't feel rumble?
No.
Okay.
No. And the nature of these earthquakes, by the time it got to Nevada...
He's smart. He's getting out. I would get out too.
It was this slow kind of reverberation. And the nature of a Sayche is that it's not really fast. If you're in a bathtub and you move the bathtub back and forth really fast, you just get a lot of... wouldn't really be a wave.
Right.
If you did it too slow, you'd never even notice. The water would just slowly go from one side of the bathtub to the other. But if you do it kind of in the middle, you start to get a wave going.
And now, look, it's
this is
calm.
The 20th of March.
And it goes back and forth with it going now.
Yeah, you can smell
and if
that
you get just the right
oscillation
of the earth
what time is it?
from Mexico that hits Nevada in Death Valley in this tiny little Devil's Hole,
and it
incredible.
You get a Sayche.
And it's coming back down again.
Oh, now it's moving.
Oh, yeah.
1815
you haven't seen
at the
anything
moment.
yet.
Seeing 1819.
This
How
would be
about
freaking me out a
that?
little bit.
It
at
would
this
me
point.
too. Because they've obviously been going here now for a little while studying.
Right.
And the water never does
No,
this.
it does not move, really.
And you know, when the tsunami happened over in Thailand, that was
It's almost
one
clearing out
thing
the whole
that they kept saying is the ocean went
Look at that.
way out.
Yeah.
And a lot of the older villagers
upset.
had heard just stories handed down that if that ever happens, you need to run and head up towards the mountains. So that's what I would be thinking of right now.
Well, in this case, Devil's Hole's not very big, so
Right,
we don't have
but
to worry so
still.
much. But look at the Earth oscillating back and forth.
We may have to get some of the.
Wow.
I hope the stuff stays.
I was just amazed when I watched
That
this.
is unbelievable. And that these guys were there
Yes.
and recorded that.
Right. So there's other videos. I've got a link to this in the show notes. But holy cow.
This would be a great movie.
Would it?
Yeah, you could take this idea, except now like
I'm just happy I'm not standing on those
something
platforms
gigantic and dinosaur-like comes out of the earth.
No, let's...
Godzilla.
You always have to take it to that next level.
It would be cool.
So that was quite remarkable.
Look at this.
I know. Now it's up over. They had platforms put across here. It's over the platforms.
Now, at this point, they have no idea there's been an earthquake. They don't
Right.
understand what's going on.
And in fact, you could have heard during the video that they were making that they were making a note of the time.
Yes, I heard them saying
And
that.
it was in UTC, so they could go back later and see what happened at this time. And I think it was 17 minutes after the earthquake or something like that, where
That's
or
unbelievable.
7 minutes after the earthquake, something along those lines. The details of this are on this tremblingearth.wordpress.com site, where he's got the details. And they talked about this. It was a 7.4 earthquake that went across. And even in California, the amount of what you can see You can really see when the earthquake hit.
Unbelievable.
When it spiked up with seismographs. But because it's such a slow roll, we can't even feel it. Imperceptible to human beings.
Scientists have the coolest jobs.
Don't they, though?
When you work in an office building, you never have anything like that. It's like today there was a huge paper jam. I could not get anything printed.
And then water came in.
We were taking a video of it. Mark the time.
Well, we go from the Earth to the moon. So
Okay.
what a galaxy we have. And I love these little things. We've done a number of these on the podcast, but I found another one, and I love these ideas, these perception type views of the world. This one's called OMG Space.net. OMG Space.net. Let me show you OMG Space.net, the coolest thing. Let's flip back over to my OMG Space. This is one web page. So if you were to scroll down through the web page, you would be able to see what's on the web page and effectively fly through space. Now at the bottom is a link to different places you can go, like Mercury, and it slides down to Mercury. And what it does is give you a perception of how big is Mercury compared to the sun.
Oh, wow.
See, it's very small. Let
It's
me
a tiny dot.
Move our heads so people can see that. Or what about Earth compared to the size of the sun? And what's interesting about this one, I don't know if I have this zoomed up just right. Yeah, you can see how far away the moon is from the Earth. And this is all one web page. It's hard to see on the screen, but there's a slider bar at the right. You can slide all the way through the galaxy just to get a perception of how far away things like Pluto are from everything else, and see what the differences are. Now, when you find a planet and you understand there it is, you can click on the planet and it brings up an infographic about what that planet is. So you can
This is a
see.
great site.
It is. And you can buy the infographics to do whatever you'd like with. So the person who put this together sells those as well. But I thought that was such a great little site to look at. And if you go up to About, you can learn more about it. This is Margot Trudell, a student studying graphic design in Canada, that put this together and did a great job.
Those brilliant Canadians.
It's always back to the Canadians with you, isn't it? Your people. Doing that thing. So if you ever wanted to just get a perspective of
I love
what
when
it's
we
about
find
there.
things like this that give you that sense of scale. Do you remember we did the story that showed the size of everything in the universe?
Right.
You know, from like a mouse or even smaller all the way up to solar systems and the universe itself. I mean, that's just incredible.
Yep. And you get that same type of view here. How big, how enormous.
We're just a dot.
Just a little tiny dot up there with everything else.
I'm telling you, when you see things like that, taxes, not a problem.
I still haven't done my tax. Well, I've done my taxes. I haven't paid my taxes this year. In the United States, it's April the 15th is tax deadline next Sunday. They are not getting my money until Saturday. I'm still holding on to another week
At 11:59.
before they get anything.
But it just helps you put things in perspective.
I think that's important. And speaking of perspective, you can come to our website and watch all of the What a Week podcasts that we offer. Just join us at whataweekpodcast.com. And if you'd like to watch us live, as I mentioned, you go to whataweekpodcast.com/live, and you can watch our live stream every Saturday. If you'd like to follow us on Twitter, I announce when we're going live with these things, so you can do that at What Week. And we have a Facebook page as well where you can get notified of that. And if you'd like to contact me directly, you can send an email to james@whataweekpodcast.com. I fully expect next week's podcast is going to be, I'll be in a bit more of an irritated mood, I think, because of taxes. Because it will be the day that I have to pay. In fact, what I'll do is wait until after the podcast to actually do my electronic payment of my taxes. So we will see how gruff and how uncooperative and how irritable I am. That if nothing else, that'll get people tuning in for next
We'll
week's
replay
episode.
that story for you.
Which one?
The one about how small we are compared to the sun.
Yeah.
We are a dust speck, and you're a molecule on the dust speck.
And
that
my
has to pay
bank account
taxes.
is even smaller
That's
than
right.
that. Much smaller
It's okay.
than that. I am a vessel of love. And with that, we hope you stay true, get your chakra aligned, get your chi in the right place for next week's podcast and join
We'll
us
pipe
right
in
here.
some cookie smells
That's
next
right.
week.
That's
Make
what
you
we'll
feel
do.
good.
We'll turn it around.
We have the budget. We will do it.
For
We're
the
committed.
cookies. So join us for chocolate chip cookies, and we'll see you next time on What a Week.
Goodbye, everybody.